It was the lowest season of my marriage. I just did not have an ounce of energy left. My body was telling me, you're burnt out, woman. I think I'm on the verge of like a full-on meltdown. Literally waking up with stress and anxiety of work. That was the first signal.
Everybody thinks burnout is about how much you're doing, but we are going to make the case that burnout is not always a volume issue. It's an alignment issue. And we will explore the microsigns that allow you to get ahead of it so you never get to the point of,
I'm in such a dark place that I need help.
There are preventative measures that you can take, and we're going to talk about what those are today.
Ever wonder what it actually takes to build a reputation that generates revenue? Rory and AJ Vaden are the powerhouse duo behind Brand Builders Group, NYT best-selling authors, and the personal brand experts who have helped some of the world's most influential leaders scale their personal brands. Now, they're pulling back the curtain on how to capture attention, build massive trust, and turn your expertise into a lasting legacy. Get ready to elevate your influence and your income. This is Wealthy and Well Known.
All right, y'all. Today we're going to be talking about something that many high achievers are too proud to admit, which is burnout. And I have a little confession for you today, which is a little bit of some backstory of a season of my life where burnout literally took me out. And this was a 13-year journey to get to a point of decision of realizing that everything I did was for money, ego, title, ambition, and I didn't see the signs. But today we're going to talk about how you notice them before they take you out. But when I didn't see the signs, all of this led to a season of literally utter despair in the sense of, I don't know what to do. I'm not happy. I wasn't seeing friends. I wasn't seeing family. I would say it was the lowest season of my marriage with Rory. This was in 2021. This was a season of, I just did not have an ounce of energy left. There was nothing I could do that would bring me joy. And yet every single day it was to wake up and do the entire thing over again and again and again. I had very little friendships going on. I had very little personal life. Everything was circulating around this idea of how do we figure this out? How do we make this work? How do we grow this? And it literally took me to the bottom of the barrel of, I think I actually need to seek professional help. And there were many micro signs along the way that I could have seen, that I could have noticed, that I could have gotten ahead of. And today's episode is to talk about those things so that you never get to the point of, oh, I need to seek professional help. I'm in such a dark place that I need help. There's things that you can do before that, preventative measures that you can take. And we're going to talk about what those are today.
Yes. And I will say that probably the biggest thing I've noticed on this topic of burnout that I hope that we can talk about today is that everybody thinks burnout is a volume issue. And I'm going to make the case that burnout is not always a volume issue as much as it is an alignment issue. It's not always about how much you're doing. It's about the reasons why you're doing as much as you're doing. And that if we can get the alignment right, you actually can have high capacity to perform and you can perform at a high level, but it doesn't, without it taking over every ounce and every second of your entire life. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions around burnout. And I've run pretty hard for a pretty long time. And I've never really bumped up close personally to burnout. I witnessed it in that time of 2021. That was the hardest point in our marriage for sure. There was a lot going on, as there's probably a lot going on in your life, right? We had young kids, we had COVID, we were in the middle of a startup. You had a lot of health situations, and it's hard. It's hard. So I hope we can just have an honest conversation. We've been there close together. We've also had a lot of endurance. We've had some success through this. We've had some hard seasons. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull a Rory today, and I'm going to answer my own question.
I thought we were disallowing answering our own questions.
I was disallowing you to do it. Is what it was. But the very first question, I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to answer it, and then you can answer it.
Right.
But here's the question: is what are the first signs of burnout? What did you ignore, and what did it cost you before you admitted that it was happening? And so I think I want to start with what were the first signs. And I think for so many of us, these are the things that we ignore. And I ignored all the physical signs. Like my body was telling me, you're burnt out, woman, way before my mind was willing to admit, I think I'm on the verge of like a full-on meltdown. And those started with sleepless nights. It started with like every night I would wake up with a mental to-do list.
At what time?
All through the night. I would wake up repeatedly of, oh my gosh, did that happen? Did that get done? Or I need to write this down. Or like there was even some nights, I guess mornings, you could say, it's like, I'm like, I have to start at 4 a.m. because the kids are going to be up and we were still in a season of really young babies. And it's like, I have to be able to do this and this. And it was like there was so much anxiety that my body could not rest. I still have a challenge with rest, and how even today I know that I'm on the verge of overwhelm or burnout is when my body won't rest. Like I can't nap, I can't sleep, I have problems sleeping. Like those are physical signs where my body is like, something's not right. You're not settled. You're anxious about something. And I just ignored them. I was like, oh, it's like, we have young kids, it's busy. But this was years. If you remember,
it was a couple of years. It was like a hard go.
I could not sleep through the night. That was the first signal. The second signal was literally like physical manifestations of pain, of illness, of sickness. Like those were things that really started to become a really present issue. There was so many little things, but finally, if you remember, I was diagnosed with gallstones.
Yeah, it really culminated in gallbladder. Culminated in a very, very severe
and then a life or death
attacks.
Emergency surgery. But it was, it took me 18 months of visiting different doctors, trying to do different things until a Eastern medicine practitioner looked at my tongue and checked my pulse rate and said, "You have gallstones." And I was like, "Come again?"
This is a crazy story because you like walked in and you spent a few minutes describing this, and he's like, "Open your mouth."
He's like, "Stick out your tongue." And I was like, "Okay." I sticked out my tongue and he held my wrist and he goes, "You have gallstones." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?"
How do you know? And we spent years talking to doctors trying to figure out what's going on.
Almost 2 full years. And then, but this was that part was fascinating in and of itself. And then he sat down and he said, "Do you have a problem with frustration?" And when he said the word frustration, I said, "How did you know that?" Like, I bet in that season of my life, I probably internally or externally verbally said the words, "I'm just so frustrated," 10 times a day. Like, at least, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at every turn, I was just like, "I'm just so freaking frustrated. This is so frustrating." Like, I literally said those words. And when he said that, I was like, "How do you know that?" And he goes, "Your gallbladder is the organ of your body that holds frustration."
That was so crazy because
it was crazy.
He was able to say each organ in your body is
holds
connected to a specific type of emotion.
And he said, "You have gallstones because you're not able to process frustration. And until you do, you will not heal."
Tell him what the prescription was he gave you, the most immediate prescription, because that was also crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this was a physical manifestation of overwhelm and burnout. And he said, "What I need you to do is go home and hit something every day."
Husband, duck!
And I was like, "What? What do you like?" This wasn't. It was not a drastic diet change. It was.
He was not being facetious.
No, he was being dead serious.
Literal.
He was like, "I need you to get a bat. I need you to get
a tennis racket,
a
punching
bag." He was like, he goes, "Working out is not what I'm asking you to do." He goes, "I need you to have a physical release of tension by hitting something. You have to make physical contact." And here's what all of you need to learn. Like, if your body keeps the score, right? I read this book. It's a hard book to read.
Heavy.
It's a heavy, heavy book, but I do believe in the premise, like, your body keeps the score. And if you just pay attention to your body, inflammation, swelling, unwanted weight gain, water retention, sleepless nights, headaches, tension in your face, muscle aches that won't go away. Like these things are your body trying to give you signals that something isn't right. And what it's telling you is like, there's a root issue here. This isn't, hey, pop a pill or, take a shot. That's not what it's saying. Your body is going like, there is something being developed in you that you need to recognize. There is a root issue here. And for me in that season, it was an unbelievably tense season of so much work, so much overwhelm, overcommitted, is not an hour to myself, no breaks, no mental breaks. It wasn't even just physical breaks. It was no mental breaks. And so I would just encourage all of you.
It also was COVID. It was a stressful
a heavy season
for the world.
But I would encourage all of you, like your body is telling you right now, if you are approaching burnout, your body is telling you something is not right. It's just, are you paying attention to it? Are you going, oh, that's, it's just this, or, oh, it's just aging, or it's just whatever. And it's like, it's not just anything. If you can't sleep, something is not right. Right? If you're gaining weight unexpectedly, something is not right. If you can't focus, if you have fatigue, if you're, have mental cloudiness, if you're forgetting things, those aren't nothing. Your body is sending you cues. And it was amazing for me to have these encounters in that season that eventually led to healing. And now it's like, I know when those things start to pop up, it's like, oh, something's going on. In my work life, in my work-life balance, like something's going on. So physical cues are the first indicators.
And one of the things we learned about you in that whole experience was your physical energy exertion. He was talking about impact, but in general, we learned you are a high energy burner. You have to have physical energy exertion.
I have to have physical release.
Physical release. And we might catch some hate for what I'm about to say, and because I don't mean to oversimplify how to deal with burnout. But I'm just going to share my honest experience here. In the seasons of my life where I have approached burnout or stress, there have always been one of two things out of alignment. I either was not spiritually centered. So I was not going to church. I was not reading the Bible. I was not engaging in practice. And if you're not a Christian or whatever, like it could be meditation or whatever, but like I was not spiritually centered. Or I was not exercising properly and consistently. And I don't mean to say that those two things are the ultimate cure for every source of burnout, but I can say without a doubt, 100% of the seasons in my life where I have approached burnout, one and usually both of those things had somehow, some way, for some reason, fallen to the wayside. And my encouragement to you would simply be, if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling overwhelmed, I would simply ask you to go, are you spending time with the Lord, or whatever your version of spiritual centerment looks like? And are you exercising? Before you do anything else, before you take a pill, read a book, talk to a doctor, I'm just going, those two things, do yourself a favor, get those two things right, and see if a whole bunch of stuff doesn't change. And in your case, the hitting was a very unique thing, but it also was just, we've learned even now, like you need hot yoga, you need walks.
But for me, I think, and this is, again, every individual, it's like you got to pay attention to your body.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that's really important about this for, business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, it's like you have to slow down enough to listen to your body. Like some of us are just moving at such a fast pace. It's like there's not a break to even notice what's going on, much less stop and think about it and do something about it. So it's like you have to slow down enough to go like, what's going on here? What are the trends that I'm seeing? Then you can assess. But I think one of the things that you were going to say, Rory, is like for all of us, it comes in different, like exercise to some might be a brisk walk. Like what we found out for myself, it has to be like an intense energy release. So like a brisk walk won't do it for me. It has to be something where it's like I'm almost to the point of exhaustion.
She has a weighted vest. She's got her little pink bangles on, and she is cruising. Like I cannot keep up with her. She is hustling.
But it's like
I got to get her a parachute. I got to get you one of those like little parachute things.
Those weighted things that you put on. But I think it's like that's really important. It's like you have to know like what actually resets you. And that took me a long time to figure it out. Like I used to do hot yoga in my early 20s. And then over the last 15 years, I just stopped going. I was doing bar 3, doing Pilates. I was doing all these other things. And it wasn't doing what my body needed. And the moment that I have gotten back into intense hot yoga, it has been amazing. Like I told Rory this just the other day. It's like, I literally go in one way and I leave feeling a different. There is a physical difference in my body, but there's a mental clearing that happens in a 60-minute period that happens with no other workout. And I'm not being an advocate for yoga here. I'm just going, find the thing that does that for you. But I do think like the natural release of endorphins is a huge component of you getting those boosts that are needed to combat some of this.
Yeah. And I'm in some ways I'm the opposite, because sleep is what recharges me so much, right? I'm just like the koala bear. I'm just like, if I can just get a 30-minute power nap, I literally wake up feeling that same way. I feel like a different person. But what does burnout look like specifically for a personal brand?
I think that, I mean, I think it doesn't matter if it's in your personal brand, business, personal life, whatever. It's like, I just think in general, the thing that shows up often is like there is an element of just exhaustion. Like it's like maybe that's not even the right word, but there is a dimness to the conversation versus something that has just a natural energy to it. There is a lack thereof, and I think that you can sense like, hey, this is being forced, or this is I'm doing it out of following through on my schedule and commitment. And I have some of those days, like right now, it's like, there are some days where I have to film a content shoot. And I'm like, this is the last thing that I want to be doing today with everything else on my plate. And I'm forcing my way through it versus other days where I'm like, I'm in the right mental headspace. And this is all I want to do. And I think those are the things that show up. It's a forced thing of, hey, I'm doing this out of obligation versus out of genuine passion and mission.
Yeah. A word I would use is dread.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, you're starting to burn out like professionally when there's a sense of dread of like, you get the Sunday night blues and you're like, oh, I'm not looking forward to today. There's a difference between
have to versus I want to.
Like, oh, I really just do not want to do this. That's very different from like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard and I'm so tired. But it was like, man, I was cranking today. I was jamming. I'm exhausted, but like the same way I'm exhausted coming out of the gym versus a dread of like, I'm having to muster up just being here. And so I think that is a sign that I would tell people to be looking for. And I think that's an indicator professionally that you're not operating in your uniqueness. I think that is a sign that you are probably trying to emulate other people. You're probably, maybe you might be copying content. You're doing what you think you're supposed to versus what, I would say what God created you to do or what your uniqueness is. It's like you're so busy comparing and trying to shape your personal brand and your business by what other people are doing or saying, and you're operating kind of from the outside in versus operating from the inside out and saying, why am I here? Who do I care to serve about? What are the things I want to research? What are the things that I want to study? Where is my natural sort of curiosity or fascination leaning me towards? And that's like, yeah, you're off course because you're trying to make money in this way because you think it's a way to make money, or you're trying to do your content this way because you think that's how your content has to be done. You're not just listening again, not so much to your body, but you're not like listening to your own intuition about what your mission is and what your message is and who you're supposed to serve. So I think that's also a sign of a misalignment of your uniqueness being expressed, as a personal brand.
I have a question for you. What do you think is a lie that people tell themselves when they're in burnout? Like when they're in this mode of dread, as you said, like what do you think is a lie that people tell themselves when they're in this mode?
Yeah, here's the ironic lie about burnout is they tell themselves, if I just work more, I can work myself out of this. And that's where I really draw the line and go, this isn't a matter of doing more. It's not a matter of the volume of work you're doing. It's a matter of alignment. I think burnout is more the result of misalignment. There are people who can work crazy amounts. And it's, I go back to what Navy SEAL Joe told us that day that you bought me with our friend Joe, who's a Navy SEAL. And he said, the body can take damn near anything. It's the mind that needs conditioning. Mm-hmm. If there's a misalignment of your mind, everything breaks down. If you're in alignment, like you can do so much. Like you have the source power of the creator working through you. Like you can do so much. But if you're like off the track, it's like you're operating in your own willpower and you're just dying. You're just depleted and exhausted. And I think back to an earlier season in our life and our business and with our first company where you experienced a different kind of burnout. You weren't physically burnt out. You were working like crazy. You're working 80 hours a week. You're crushing it. You're winning all the goals, like winning all the contests and stuff. But you were emotionally depleted.
Yeah.
And it was more of it was a misalignment of like, it wasn't about what you were doing. It wasn't about how much you were doing. It was about the underlying motivation of why you were doing what you were doing. Mm-hmm. You were doing what you were doing to prove something to someone or some sets of people. And that's exhausting. Even though you were really good at the work and clients were loving it and you were crushing it and you were making money and doing things. But I just know, like, kind of in the background in that season, you felt like you were losing yourself, I guess is how I would describe that. You've described it.
The general conversation is so much of burnout. A way to prevent it is to make sure that you're working in alignment with where you feel like you're supposed to be.
Because even if you do less, it's like if you're doing something you hate, but you do less of it, you're still going to be burned out. Like that's not the answer.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people don't understand. They're like, oh, I'm working too much. It's like, not necessarily. Like there's some healthy boundaries to like the quantity of work you do. But usually when you're on track with the calling of your life, the
natural skills,
the divine design, the natural skills, it's one of my all-time favorite quotes from the guy whose name that I can't say correctly, but it's Pantajali, where he says, when you're inspired by some great, extraordinary purpose, dormant forces and faculties come alive and you find yourself to be a far greater person than you ever imagined yourself to be. And I've found that to be true in my own life. I've witnessed that in your life. I've seen that in so many of our clients. It's like when you're on purpose, when you're on track, you come alive with creativity and energy, like this boundless energy.
Yeah, I think a lot of this, it's like, are you working from a place of true enjoyment? Or are you working from a place of forced will?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of burnout comes from, hey, you've been working from a place of forced will for so long that at some point you're like, I'm out of runway here. Like, there's no more forced will ammunition coming. It's like, it's all burned up, versus working from a place of genuine skill, enjoyment, talent. We read a book a couple of years ago as a company called The Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. And one of the things that I love about that book, he said, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing something that is not your natural genius, eventually you'll burn out.
Totally.
Doesn't matter what it is and how good you are. If it's not natural to you, at some point that forced effort will burn you out. Mentally, emotionally, physically, depending on what the job is. And that really is back into an alignment with what are you naturally gifted to do? Where are your natural interests? Where are your natural talents? Where are your natural passions? Where do you have natural inclinations to succeed? And do that, whatever it is. And he said, what I loved, he goes, people always talk about, hey, I need a vacation or I need a break or I need a day off. And he's always like, no. You need to get in alignment with what you're good at work. Because when you're in alignment with what you're good at work, you don't need that. Not saying we shouldn't take breaks, vacations, and whatever. But he said people need a break because they're tired because they've been forcing it, versus am I working from a place of natural genius?
So I have a personal question for you and a professional question about you handle
Hit
this.
me.
I sometimes look at my life and I feel like I've had an unfair advantage, and that unfair advantage is you as my partner. I think
I would agree with you.
yes. I mean, you, and there's this term in the Bible, ezer kenegdo, which is in Genesis.
Yep.
And often the English translation says, I will make for you a suitable helper. But the actual translation is what?
It's closer to soul saver.
Soul saver. And I feel like you are my soul saver. And so I feel like that is an unfair advantage to me and to men in general. I think moms carry more on the personal side. I'm not talking about like, assigning gender roles. I help with the dishes. I clean around the house, but like you do more of the cooking. You coordinate more with like house stuff. And the general default, whether we like it or not, is just the kids come to you. How do you balance burnout on the personal front, because you're fighting two wars, and it's not that I don't think I'm completely absent from one, but I think it's different.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a great answer to that because it is a struggle. I think where, if I was being honest, it's like I have the amazing benefit of help, right? And I know a lot of families don't have that.
Yeah,
and that's a very unfair advantage. I sit at our home often and wonder, like, how do full-time families who have two working parents do this?
so hard.
This is so hard.
There's so much.
There's so much. And so I have a lot of sympathy and empathy of going like, if I can barely keep up and I have help, how are families doing this with two full-time working parents? This is so much. And then I have some friends who have 6, 7, 8 kids. I just stand in awe of like, like what? Like, and here was my answer. You just figure it out. And it's like, sometimes you get help. Sometimes you don't have help. You have 2 kids or you have 8 kids or you have 0 kids. It's hard no matter what, right? And it's that whole idea of like, it's hard to be single. It's hard to be married. It's choose your hard. And then you choose to figure out how to make it work. And so I think in general, not saying this universally, I do think that women have higher capacities to handle more, because I actually genuinely think we were built that way. And I say to handle more, it's like, I think it's like, clearly we were biologically made to be able to carry humans and to raise them and then to like nurture for them. But I don't think that's just for our children. I think it's for all humans. I think it's for our husbands. I think it's for our communities. Not saying men can't, so don't hear what I'm not saying, listeners. But I do think there are some unique things that are biologically different. And I think some of that is the more that you're created to care for humans, you have to have more capacity because they require more.
Okay, so that leads into my next question, which is about at work. Okay, how do you, when you manage a team, how do you have compassion and empathy for everything you just said, what they're dealing with at home, and keeping all of that, but also holding high standards and a high accountability to the success of the company, but like knowing that, your employees, our employees are also battling burnout, and we going, hey, we know that it's important to not work constantly. So how do you as a leader create a culture where there's a healthy blend of you need to have a life outside of work, and that's important, and we also have very high expectations and very high standards of performance? How do you reconcile that?
I mean, I genuinely think it's everything that we've been having in this conversation of hiring the right person with the right skills for the right seat. It's alignment. It really is. It's alignment. Doesn't matter what role you sit in. It's like, if you're out of alignment, it's like if your employees are doing X, Y, and Z tasks that they don't really love doing, they're going to take longer. The output's not going to be as good, and they're not going to enjoy it as much, versus someone who is in a seat where it's like,
They were made for this.
This is my jam. I can do this and not get paid. It's different. It gets done better. It gets done faster. It gets done with more enjoyment. It's about alignment. And so I think the accountability comes to the leader of going, did you hire the right person with the right skills for the right job? That's really what it comes down to. It's like we've had this conversation the last few episodes, is like the problem starts with the leader. It starts with the owner. You are the problem. So it's alignment in a different way. But it's the same conversation, no matter if it's for you or it's for your team.
All right. So it is time for our community question. This question comes from Christine in our community. She says, I have been a part of your program for several years. Looks like she loves working with us. She says, I'm 99% sure I'll be a BBGer for a long time. But she says that she is in the middle land. She's struggling where...
In the middle land?
The middle land,
Okay.
where she sees the value of more systems and more kind of technology and infrastructure in her business, but she doesn't yet have the budget to just go hire all the people to do it for her. Mm-hmm. And so she's struggling with how much of her time should she lean into trying to like figure that out versus doing more of the things that are in her own strength and, like her current strengths versus, okay, should I just hire someone to do it? And so I think I'm adapting her question a little bit to what I think is sort of relevant for everybody, but she's describing a scene where she's like not yet there where she can just write a check and like pay someone to solve this problem for her, even though she sees the value. And so she's just kind of like in that, no man's or no woman's land of, that in between.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to give a generally broad answer to this. And it's like, I think for all of us, no matter what your seat is, no matter what your role is, I think everyone needs to understand that there is a cost to inexperience. Sometimes that's with your team. Often it's with you. And there is a cost to inexperience. There is a cost to you saying, I'll do it because I can't afford someone else to do it when you've never done it. Like, it will take longer. It will not be as good. It will take you 10 times the amount of time, and you will end up spending 10 times the amount of money from hiring a professional who could have done it right the first time, more efficiently and more effectively. And I think that is a lie that we tell ourselves is I can't afford it, but yet you're paying yourself. And if you are sitting in a seat that you're not supposed to be in, then you're not doing the thing that only you can do, which would be providing the money and the resources to go hire the thing. So to answer that question a little bit more directly, what I would say is, what's the one thing that you dread? What's the one thing that you're like, not this again? And that is the first thing you should outsource and go, if I reallocated the time, money, energy, and resources that I'm currently giving to this little thing that sucks the life out of me, that makes me not enjoy my job, that makes me question if I should be doing this, what is that? And if you reallocated all of your time and energy into something that you're naturally gifted at, could you justify the trade-off of like, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to go hire someone to do this thing so I can double down here. Here's the second thing I would say that I hear entrepreneurs say all the time is like, well, I can't afford it. I'm like, you can't afford not to try. That doesn't mean you have to stay. It's like, you can go try it. And in 30 days, if it's not working, you can't pay for it, discontinue. That's why I think it's great to start with vendors. It's great to start with outsourced fractional firms. You don't start with a full-time employee where you're now taking on their livelihood. That's a dangerous decision for you and for them because it puts unnecessary pressure on two places that doesn't make sense. Do you need someone for 5 hours? Well, you can hire a firm for that. You can hire a vendor. You hire a company for that, an agency, whatever, and reinvest your time and energy into things that only you can do and tell me you can't pay for it 30 days later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amen. I mean, self-promotion here, but I would point you towards the Delegate chapter of my second book, Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. Like, that is a must-read chapter on this issue. And one of the insights is exactly what you're just saying. Like, you already are affording it. You're either paying someone else at their pay rate or you're paying yourself at yours. And what I would say is every entrepreneur believes that they don't have enough money yet to hire the person, and they're waiting to have the money to hire the person. And so they never feel like they have it. And so they never hire the person. And so they stay stuck. The act of faith is an act of trust, both in, a higher power and in people and in yourself and your own ability to generate income, is to go, no, I believe that if I hire the person first, that will create more time for me. And with more time and more energy, I will then be able to create the money. And there's not ever really been a point in our life where we have had the money available to hire the person. It's always been more of an act of faith of, we're going to hire the person and trust that that's going to create the margin of opportunity and time and resources for us to go make the money. And that is the trade-off. And that struggle is the struggle. It's the struggle of every entrepreneur. And at some point, you just got to take that act of faith. And I think what you're pointing out here is a great part of giving yourself that permission, is to go, you don't have to commit to it forever.
Yeah.
Try it and see if it doesn't work that way. And even if it doesn't work, a lot of times you go, oh, well, that setup didn't work, but I actually can hire someone else. I can see how I could make it work, even though that was wrong. So you learn by doing it, but you don't learn by waiting until you can afford it. It's a really hard leap. It's a leap of faith. That's why they say that term.
Yeah. And I would just encourage you to. I hear so many people say, well, I've just made so many wrong hires in that seat, I'm not going to do it again. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean you don't do it again. It just means you get better at it, right? So you make the decisions faster. You get better at hiring. You get better at training. You find the right person in the right seat. Just because it didn't work one time doesn't mean it won't work next time. So I would just encourage that too. But there is a cost of an experience, and most likely it's you. So it's a costly experiment to be doing something that you've never done before, when you can go hire it out to someone who knows what they're doing. So if this episode has been helpful to you, I would just encourage you, if you know someone that is on the verge of burnout, or who is even saying like, I feel burned out, do them a favor and share this episode with them. We know that the body will tell you when you're coming in. So just paying attention to the cues will help you prevent yourself from burning out. And then sharing this episode could help a friend of yours from experiencing the same thing. So share this episode with a friend. Do us a favor, subscribe, stay tuned to the podcast. And also, as you're learning about entrepreneurship, if you would love how to get more support like this, we would really encourage you to request a call with our team. And you can do that by going to freebrandcall.com/podcast. That's freebrandcall.com/podcast. Request a call with our team to figure out how can you be building your personal brand and your business in a way that's aligned to you, right? That's what we're after here. How do you do it in a way that's aligned to you? And you can request a call with our team to do that.
We'll catch you next time on the Wealthy and Well-Known podcast.